there was a sort of staff meeting, and in the staff meeting, obviously we knew about Section 28 because there'd been a lot of anger in the media, and Thatcher had just done that horrible speech saying no one has an inalienable right to be gay and all that. We wanted some guidance, what can and can't we do? And I think the most important thing was that the head, the deputy, nobody at the school could actually give us any guidance.
All I know is that it was introduced by Margaret Thatcher, and it was basically banning teachers and staff at school from talking about being gay or LGBTQ or anything like that. But obviously, you said in the libraries as well, it wasn't allowed. There weren't allowed to be books about it, so I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
I probably don't know that much about it apart from what it is, and it's only like in the last few years since I've been out that I've become a lot more aware.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look back on it now, it was written so deliberately vague
Mm.
that no one really knew what we could and could not do.
What was the general, like, because obviously were other staff pleased about it? Were they like worried? What was the general feeling?
No one was pleased about it, but then it wasn't a church school, it was a normal school. The people, if there were people who were lesbian or gay or bi, they weren't out about their sexuality. And in 1988, I was definitely not out about my gender identity.
I grew up at school during Section 28. I think Section 28 came in the year I started school or the year after. And I left school in 1999.
Wow. So literally the whole time.
Yeah, yeah. So it was in until 2003. I left school about 4 years before, and it was still in for another 4 years after I left. So yeah, it covered my whole time at school. I wasn't aware of it at the time. It's only since, like probably just the last few years, really, I've like realised what it is and the impact it might have had on me.
So now looking back, do you think there has been like an impact on you?
It was hard anyway because, like I said, like being gay, nobody was out as gay at school. It was a time when something that wasn't considered ordinary, wasn't considered normal, was gay, and you'd say like everyone would say, including me, would say like that's gay, that is, but that's just because it was a normal thing to do at the time.
I started secondary school in 2015, so a long time after really should have been not a thing. But it was also a Catholic school, but it's just normal. Gay is an insult. That you kind of go to secondary school, you learn that suddenly you could swear if the teachers aren't there, and you could say gay is an insult. That's just what you like. It's normal.
Yeah.
But I don't remember it ever being. I don't ever remember anyone kind of saying that that's not okay.
I mean, I suspect there's still a hangover from Section 28. I mean, it is 20 years now since it was repealed. But I also think it's left to the queer staff to deal with it, especially in secondary schools, and not anybody else. And we have to change that. We have to make it so that it's, I never recoiled from dealing with racism, even though I'm white. If it was a racist incident, I dealt with it. I didn't leave it to the black or Asian staff.
Being transgender wasn't even a word in my vocabulary. I didn't know what it was. Even though I've always felt like I was a girl, I didn't have a word for it. I didn't know why I felt the way that I felt.
I mean, I had been aware I was trans since I was about 5. I didn't have a vocabulary for it. Actually, this was before the word transgender had even been invented. That was 1992. Yeah, it was invented. So, I kind of picked up on the word transsexual, which didn't sound really very useful because it got the word sex in it. But I just considered generally I wouldn't be able to be out anyway.
If I wanted to try and find out how I felt, I didn't do this, but if I wanted to, one of the few ways I could have done that is go to the library, and I wouldn't have found anything because of Section 28. And again, if it had went to a teacher, they probably wouldn't have been able to help me because of Section 28.
We had talked about it being quite oppressive, but it didn't really come home until that staff meeting, and then we'd heard about it, but I hadn't actually seen the text of it. And then it started to dawn on me that I really don't know what I can and can't do.
Was it a scary moment where you did you consider maybe the harm that it would do, or was it just like a confusion?
I thought, yeah, this is confusing, and I think later on, I realised that there were probably things I could have done quite easily, but because it was so vague, I didn't want to do anything.
You don't want to put that at risk.
We did decide in the end. I mean, I raised the question, okay, what happens if a child asks, what does gay mean or lesbian mean or something like that? And as a deliberate provocation, really. And there was a lot of umming and ahhing and, and it ended up being the sort of the judgment by senior management was, well, if a child asks about it, you should answer them. So if it comes from the child, then that's fine because you are not initiating it.
Do you have any thoughts about maybe some comparisons between the way Section 28 was brought in and what it involved and the guidance that's being kind of pushed a little bit now?
I don't think there's a huge similarity, actually. A lot of people have said there are similarities. It's the trans Section 28, but I think it's worse than Section 28. It's trying also to be a bit vague, like Section 28 was, to make people a bit more afraid. I don't think, in a lot of schools, I don't think it will actually work.
The whole thing about Section 28 is like the silence and the don't talk about it, whereas this feels a bit more, I don't even know the word, it feels a bit more like an attack. So Section 28 was like we're going to pretend you don't exist and we're going to do all this like silent harm, whereas this is like, no, we're punching you in the face.
Yeah, it's trying to stop something that's already started, whereas it hadn't really started. It probably had, but not to the same degree. And I think also if they do try and produce statutory guidance, then that will immediately be challenged in the courts.
They will have issues because they're not going to stop the visibility like Section 28. It was because there was no internet, there was no visibility. It was quite an easy thing to stop people being exposed to it. But now, because of the internet and social media, and they're not going to stop people.
Yeah, I think your message of hope is really important as well. That when Section 28 was happening, that there wasn't internet, and now it's being mirrored. We do have sources like Mermaids kind of get through it, and I think that really needs to be spread, that we do have a community that can come together and we're more aware of it, which knowledge is power sometimes, isn't it?
I think back to when I was at school, and there was just nothing at all. There was I didn't have an idea, and I often wonder, was that better than growing up now, knowing that you can be trans and be gay, but you've got a world telling you that you can't be, and I think in a way that's possibly harder, but because at the same time there is that visibility and representation, and I can only see getting better going forward.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely happy and grateful that I was able to come out at 13 as non-binary, so I've been able to just be myself for quite a few years now, and I think I'm definitely grateful that I've grown up in a time where it's more acceptable, even if there is a lot of negativity around it in the media and stuff. I think from my personal experience, I'm quite grateful for the time I've grown up in, but obviously it's getting worse now, which is quite scary, which I guess is why we're having this conversation.
I think not having any negativity, or not much negativity, has made me a much more confident person. Like, I don't, you obviously sometimes feel scared to come out to people because you don't know, are they going to, it's a reality, are they going to be violent, are they going to be, you have to look after your safety, but I never feel ashamed, and I never have really. And I think that's probably one of the biggest hangovers from Section 28, is that so many people just didn't know, just thought they were so abnormal.
That, and I think it's so lovely to hear that you were maybe one of the people making them feel normal and helping them not to feel, or doing as much as you possibly could, you know, within the horrible parameters, to try your best.
Going to school through Section 28 hasn't stopped me from being myself. I'm still here today, and I'm still grateful for all my experiences, because it's made me the person that I am.
Maybe there's a stronger sense of community now than when Section 28 was introduced. Would you agree?
I think so, and online has made that happen, I think.
It's just a lot easier to find that community, which is nice.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, like, it probably would have been quite difficult to get 2 or more trans people in a room in 1988.
Yeah.
Especially if you're from South Wales.
Yeah.
But I think now it's just so much easier. You've got all the organisations, and you've got all the, I mean, it's still hard, obviously, if you don't have the support, but I think there's more opportunities to build community now.
Yeah.